Hello. This is a bit of an unusual film because we are talking about, you look really well actually, you look lovely. We're talking about giving up smoking. Obviously, it's always a good time to give up smoking, but especially at the moment with COVID-19 ravaging its way through the world, even
Where
better.
did the desire for this film come from? Was it some subs?
Yeah, quite a few subs have asked us. Yeah, we started having a bit of a conversation about it, didn't we? And then, I wish I could remember the sub's name, and then her mum was trying to give up. And so we said we would do a film to share our experiences of how we both gave up. So I first started smoking, my first cigarette I ever had, I was really young, probably about 7. We went down to the corner shop and you could buy them one at a time.
7?
10, something like that. And we just like puffed one.
It's a big difference between 7 and 10.
Oh, I can't remember, some age like that. And puffed, and it was disgusting. And that was it, and I didn't have one for ages afterwards. And then it was my teens, my early teens, probably about 14, 15 that I started smoking.
I first smoked with my first girlfriend because she used to have the occasional silk cut. And I tried a silk cut and I hated it. But I mean, my concern and worry around smoking from a young age was because, of course, I had asthma. And so for me, it struck me, and I had double pneumonia. So it struck me as kind of stupid anyway, as a young age. But then for some reason, it became, in fact, from the get-go for me, with my first girlfriend and then going to university was really where it went nuts. It became a really important prop. It was a really important prop, almost more so in some ways than drinking, prop to suggest that you were an adult. It was a real kind of demonstrative, I'm an adult.
And I'm cool as fuck.
What a moron.
Morons.
I mean, so stupid.
But I did used to love it.
It gives me asthma thinking about it.
People that smoked were really cool.
I used to smoke and take an asthma pump between cigarettes.
Well, I've seen people do that. That's literally...
It's irresponsible.
All kinds of crazy, isn't it?
It's stupid. But it really was... and I used to smoke... I mean, used to smoke silk cut. I remember having my cigarette of choice when I met you was Marlboro Lights. I had a period of Marlboro Reds at university.
Dina used to smoke Marlboro Reds and Camel.
It was almost like someone somewhere, it felt like we were trying to prove to the world that if you could almost scrape your lungs until they bled, you were somehow more... What?
I smoked San Moritz, I smoked consular. I used to smoke menthol cigarettes while chewing a mint chewing gum while drinking mint tea. How much did I not like smoking?
Jesus Christ, that's proper mint.
Apparently it's really bad to chew gum whilst you're smoking as well, because you're just chewing it all into your gums. Oh my God.
So for me, like obviously for you, it was very much a sort of status symbol and a real kind of I mean, in a weird way, it's funny, isn't it? Because when I think back to when my mum found out, you know, my mum who'd led a life of doing everything that you shouldn't do in life, and I'd seen too much as a kid, as we know. But weirdly, although there were the early signs that I had a drinking problem, I was just drinking like teenagers do and young adults do. The only moment my mum got disappointed with me wasn't about whether I took drugs, wasn't about whether I drank too much. The only time I remember her being really cross with me, funnily enough, was when me and my then girlfriend had been at her flat, we'd been drinking, and there was just a bin full of cigarettes. I mean, full of cigarettes. It wasn't like we were just smoking them, we were chomping our way through them. And she was really distressed and disappointed by that.
Well, she'd seen you have double pneumonia. She'd seen you in one of those tents.
Yeah,
it would be.
Yeah.
I will be devastated if our girls smoke.
I must admit, I mean, my advice...
As my parents were with
they?
me. Oh, God, yeah.
How did they find out?
Both my parents were very anti-smoking, and all 3 of us smoked. My mum lost her mum to smoking. My mum's mum had emphysema, and my mum's mum was very, very premature. She only weighed 1 pound when she was born. So you can imagine how undeveloped her lungs were.
Wow.
She was wrapped in cotton wool because there were no clothes small enough, so she had very undeveloped lungs. And she was a smoker.
God.
And she died really young, like in her 60s, early 60s.
Right.
And she was in hospital with emphysema, and they said, if you ever smoke again, you'll die. And she got home that day from the hospital in an ambulance. She had COPD and emphysema. Smoked a cigarette and died that night on the sofa. So my mum, as you can understand, hated smoking.
Did she ever lobby you hard to give up or stop? Was there any, or did she just accept that this was your choice?
We were brought up all the time. It's disgusting. It's absolutely people that smoke, all of that sort of stuff. But I was just a hopeless moron, like we all are when we're young. You want to drink, you want to smoke, you want to be wild, you want to be crazy. You don't think you're ever going to die. You don't think you're ever going to regret anything. You have no concept of regret when you're young. And so I did smoke all the way through from my teens till 40, really.
Well, I just tried to think.
Later than. How old was I now? 38.
Yeah, 38. Yeah, so the majority of your grown life.
Yeah.
And I mean, I smoked. I mean, I have to add, I was principally a social smoker. It would be mainly when I was out.
Never get up and have one first thing in the morning.
I mean, I am going to have to tread into some of the murky areas of my other addictions. I mean, where my smoking, got really bad was around certain types of drugs, because I would almost just eat the cigarette. I mean, I remember, to this day, I can remember the sensation of dragging on a cigarette so hard because I was driven by this slightly cocaine-fueled sort of, and then the drinking, and so all of that was designed to get it. So it was the absolutely natural accompaniment to alcohol.
Oh God, me too. There is no way on earth I could have a drink without having
I'm dribbling. Is that because I'm one?
It was totally alien to me, the idea that you could drink without a cigarette. Alien. But I always had in my head, one day I'll give up. I never had in my head that I was going to smoke until the end of my days.
It's funny though, when I look back to when me and Izzy's mum had Izzy, I don't remember smoking then. It's like I don't remember coming out of the hospital when we had Izzy and puffing on a cigarette, but I guess we were doing. So I certainly never had a packet on me all the time. I was one of those who'd, of an evening, go, all right, let's get some from the machine, or let's go from the newsagent. I wouldn't always have. And I'd always buy...
I was that type that would go out in the snow up to my knees smoking.
I'd always buy packets of... Do you remember we used to buy packets of 10? Because it was a sort of gesture towards giving up.
Yeah.
You weren't a committed smoker if you've got a packet of 10, but I just ended up buying loads of packets of 10.
And I would use it to not eat.
Oh, right.
So I would have, black coffee and fags, because it would stop me... Not black coffee, black tea and fags, because that would stop my hunger.
Wow.
I mean, famously, that's what a lot of actors do. They use black tea and fags.
I was always amazed when...
It cuts your appetite.
Right. I was amazed to hear that quite a number, in the 70s and 80s, quite a number of sprinters, runners, athletes would smoke as a appetite suppressant.
Yeah.
So
really
why is it so
stupid?
stupid? And it's interesting. So I'm a recovering alcoholic. I've had drug problems. I've had drink problems. I've had all sorts of problems. And you're right, of all the things I can think of, and we should do probably a Confessions of a Modern Parent about this, just this alone, of all the things I can think of that I would be most worried about, not just disappointed about, because I think, part of being young is making stupid decisions as well as some very sensible ones, or apt ones for your age. But of all the decisions I would like to remove from all youngsters would be even the capability of choice. I'd like to remove choice. I have no problem with banning cigarettes.
The government never will, because they get a huge amount of revenue
do they
from it.
still?
So I still can't believe that they don't lose all of that in all the NHS treatment that you need for it.
Well, exactly.
But anyway, we sit here with no judgment because we were smokers for years and years and years. And I suppose what I want to say in this film is, never feel like you've failed if you've tried and you've picked up a cigarette again. You're always one try closer to giving up. That's the way to think about it. I'd done everything. I'd done cold turkeying. I'd done the...
Bates?
No, not the Bates method. What's it called?
Alan Carr.
Alan Carr. I'd read the book. I went to the actual Alan Carr headquarters and had the hypnotherapy, and I had everything. And every time I went back to smoking. So I understand how difficult it is. Now, actually, Alan Carr was...
We're not talking about the comedian here, are we? No.
Tells us, cessation expert. Tells the story of the Marlborough Man did his technique, because the Marlborough Man had lost I think a leg and an arm from smoking. Because people tend to think just of cancer.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But it's actually the limbs that you can lose. So, and he was scared that he was going to lose his other arm and not be able to smoke, and be frustrated with not being able to smoke. So I thought that was an incredible story at the time. I was like, wow, that blew my mind. That's the level of addiction. And he also said, we have people here that have got clean from alcohol, cocaine, heroin. They cannot get clean from cigarettes because it is the most addictive thing on the planet. Well, I think a crack addict might disagree with that. But anyway, so I gave up lots of times and failed and ended up smoking again. And then it wasn't until Mark went into rehab, and through him being in rehab, I met a counsellor and I realised I needed counselling for other stuff. And then while I was being counselled by him for other stuff, I mentioned to him that I was trying to give up smoking, having a terrible time. And he was actually an expert in helping people give up smoking. And he was the catalyst for me to give up once and for all for the rest of my life. Thank God. I say for the rest of my life. It's always there in the background. I could always just go, just have a little fag.
You often say when you've been out and you've had a couple of drinks, oh, I fancy a cigarette. I mean, you'll
It's
still,
always there.
it'll
My
always come to
sister
you.
Dina gave up for about 6 years and then went back to 20 Marlboro a day. So rather like alcohol, you always have to be mindful. Once you've been addicted to it, you can easily get back into it.
But was Alan Carr key, or was it
No,
also having
Alan
the
Carr
baby?
didn't work for me.
Oh, right.
Having a
so
baby,
sorry, yeah, no, so not
having a
Alan
baby,
Carr.
I had to stop, but then I started again after I had Maddie.
Right.
Because how old was Maddie when you went into rehab?
2.5, 2.
2. No, maybe 1.5. Because it was that Christmas, 1.5. So I'd started smoking again, and I was really, really frightened of that. And so he just taught me that the facts are that within a week to 10 days, you have no physical addiction to nicotine. And the way to speed that up is to drink lots of water, flush your system of the nicotine, because the physical withdrawals are done in a week, I think.
Who told you this?
My counsellor,
The counsellor,
giving up smoking counsellor. He said then he made me I had to think about every time I went to have a cigarette, I had to write down where I was emotionally when I had that cigarette. Because he said whatever age you start smoking, it's a way of swallowing down your feelings. So you're angry, you have a fag. You're happy, you have a fag. You're celebrating, let's all have a fag. You want to have an argument, but you don't want to have an argument, so you have a fag. So it becomes an incredible emotional crutch, whatever way you want to describe it. And the other thing was, every other time I'd try to give up smoking, I put on weight. Because where I hadn't been eating, but smoking, I would have something to eat. And that's where I really got into trouble with my weight. And so I'd always gone back to smoking because I'd started to put on weight and I needed to get back to whatever weight I wanted to be. So he just taught me that you have to sit with the feelings that you've got. You have to say to your family that you're going to be really crabby, you're going to be shitty for a while, but you're trying to work out a way to save your life, and it's as simple as that, because giving up smoking is really...
So it's entirely similar to everything they were telling me in rehab about you. The great thing is you get your feelings back, and the worst thing is you get your feelings back.
I feel sad. I want a cigarette, because I will have gone for the last 10 years, every time I felt sad or angry, I went for a cigarette. I can't have the cigarette. What am I going to do? Am I going to run a bath? Am I going to phone a friend? Am I going to go for a walk? Am I going to dance like a crazy person? Am I going to watch a TV show? How am I going to distract? Because if you can distract for that first minute, you will probably forget it. And it's the same. Isn't it?
Oh, no, it's entirely similar. I mean, one of the bum steers I got, though, is, of course, when I went into rehab, one of the major forms of addiction that we all indulged in to replace the alcohol was all standing on the doorstep of our rehab centre smoking cigarettes. And I remember smoking an enormous amount of cigarettes in rehab coming off the alcohol. So in a weird way, I kind of definitely cross-addicted to smoking. And, you know, even when we had Maddie, I was smoking like between takes on set when I was filming.
We used to smoke out the back window.
Smoke out the back window.
Remember?
Yeah.
We were smoking parents. I can't believe it.
I would never smoke over any of my children. I was never I would never smoke around them, but there were ways and means I was still drinking. So, if we had people over, I'd lean out the back, I'd have a cigarette out the back. So I was still smoking when the girls were around. But it's interesting. I mean, I suppose when I start to try and unpack how I stopped, I think there were many times in my life I knew it was just so the wrong thing. My addictions to everything, alcohol, drugs, everything, perversely allowed me to not overindulge in my hypochondria. Because whenever I had moments of sobriety or moments of sort of sanity in amongst all my addictions, the thing that would kind of most likely get me to stop all of them was a fear of death. If I started to toy with the actual damage I was doing myself with each of these things, I'd get into a panic. I'd want a cigarette. I'd get into a panic. So I would have periods where I would not do it as much, or perhaps not do it at all, in a way that I never ever stopped drinking. So I could have, I think, you know, like for example, when I travelled around Bali with an ex-girlfriend, I think around the time we had Izzy, around the time I had Fleur, I don't remember smoking particularly much around then. I don't remember it being, you know, when I look back, I can't remember it as part of the set dressing. Alcohol was, but the cigarette smoke. And then very much so when I became sober, it became a real crutch and a real outlet, you know, for stress, mainly stress. And really, I mean, I think we've talked about it elsewhere. It was only when we ended up finding ourselves in Australia or New Zealand filming, and it took something very, very simple for me, actually. I mean, shockingly simple, given that all of the kind of, you know, the rigmarole one has to go into in terms of this dialogue you've just talked about. Stop, what am I thinking, how am I feeling, why am I doing this, you know, which I've done around drink. But with the smoking, there came a point, and it was a bit of a eureka moment, an epiphany, as you say. It was as I was engaging with the idea of really what was the main reason behind stopping drinking. I was actually stopping drinking for everyone I loved. You know, I didn't want to negatively impact on any of their lives, emotionally or physically eventually, because it would kill me. So I was doing it for all of you, Izzy and Fleur. And then by the same extension, I thought, why am I not extending the same logic to this? You know, of all the things. And I remember us talking about it vividly, crossing a road in Sydney, I think.
I remember the restaurant when you got the back of
we got
with the disease.
Yeah, and I went out, got a packet of cigarettes, and on the packets out there, prior to them ever doing it here, they had images of either a mouth or feet or something, some terrible disease and decomposition. And I looked at it, and that in itself I was an absolute almost poster boy for that campaign of putting something on a packet, stopping you dead. No pun intended.
Well, I remember years ago actually on Loose Women, it was a topic, should we have these things on our... And I was like, yes, I literally saw it work for my husband.
Yeah.
He was like, no, I can't do this.
And the extension to that thought of doing it for my family was I saw the photo and I thought, I didn't even think of it happening to me, though, of course, well, who wants one's face eaten away and everything else? I stopped and I thought, how can I put this baby, Maddie or Kiki, or Izzy, how could I put any of them through that?
Well, that was another big thing for me as I was working in a hospital program.
Yeah, and I remember you having that. Yeah, you were saying that.
And the nurse, I was interviewing this nurse, and she worked on the lung cancer ward, and she said it's so interesting. She said every single person that I treat, the biggest emotion that they have is guilt because their family are having to see them go through the horrors of lung cancer, and it was just planted another seed in this thick skull of mine. It's like, do I really want my children coming to look after me like this? And when we're saying all of this, guys, we are saying it from a place of absolute empathy and understanding because I had to try 10 times, 15 times to give up.
Well, prior to that...
we know how hard it is. It's not just as simple as go, well, I don't want my child to have to... We know that. So if it sounds like we're simplifying it, we don't
No,
mean
and also,
to.
prior to me saying how I stopped, it was far more difficult for me to give up than alcohol. Far more difficult for me to stop than alcohol. I couldn't get a handle on it until that...
Because you'd given up alcohol, and so then you had nothing.
I remember thinking at times, well, if I take away cigarettes, what else have I got? What else have I got?
But then if you don't take away cigarettes, what else have you got?
Yeah.
But anyway, and then the other thing for me that worked alongside working out what my emotional stuff was, because the rage is just terrible when you give up smoking, was I just did very, very slowly, not just suddenly go on I'm going for a 3-mile run or something. I just started to do a bit of exercise. And it's quite good if you do that right at the beginning while you're still smoking, because you will see quite quickly when you give up smoking, like even within days, you will feel that your breathing gets better. and then through weeks you feel your body rejuvenating. And like I used to visualize like healthy shiny lungs away from the lungs that I was scared I had. And I really think that helps, because you have to, it's no good just saying, oh, the really important thing is, for me, what worked for me was always before, when I tried to give up smoking, I would do this, oh, I'm dying for a fag, can't have one, oh my God, don't show me the fag. I don't think you'll ever succeed as long as you do that. It's a mindset thing where you have to say, I've really chosen not to smoke. There's nothing telling me I can't smoke. I've chosen. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired with the worry of smoking. Or the money. I mean, how much money does it cost? And that really helped me, that little shift. I'm choosing not to smoke because I'm really frightened a lot of the time that I am smoking, that I'm going to kill myself. And so the thing of feeling my body rejuvenate, feeling my health improving, money improving, and don't smell of it, smelling other people. That's another good thing, another little tip. Once you've stopped smoking, if there's anyone around you that smokes, let them come near you straight after they've had a fag. It will put you off. It is disgusting.
Does it smell like an ashtray?
Pure ashtray. The other thing, and this might be really difficult, but this was very, very important for me, and really did enable me to give up. I did stop drinking for the first few weeks, because fine if you're in the house and you're drinking with somebody that doesn't smoke and there are no cigarettes you can get. But it's just like any other addiction. It's like if somebody's a cocaine addict, they're not allowed to drink because you can drink and then your resolve is lost, and then you end up going, oh, come on, let's have some coke or whatever. And it's the same with cigarettes. If you get a bit drunk, you go, oh, fuck it. And that's what used to happen to me.
Oh my God, that would happen
so many times when I was trying to give up. I'd go, and then everyone's a bit pissed. They go on, just have one, bam, done.
Yeah,
Again.
that was the amount of times. It's funny you should say that. That's almost just broken my memory. I've just remembered, oh my God, the amount of times I went out with the best intentions, had a drink.
Nothing will make you crave a cigarette and make you fold and have one like having a drink. So if you're really, really determined and you want to do this extraordinary thing for your health and have a longer life and a healthier life, then just for a few weeks till you're over that first bump.
First 7 to 10 days, as you say, out of the system. It's a good idea, especially if smoking is your primary addiction and actually you haven't got as much of a problem with drinking. Do you know what I mean? You stand more of a chance if you remove the drinking contingent. That's like a gateway to more cigarette. One of the other things that I just want to share, because it's always one of my absolute, and it used to drive me nuts when I was younger.
Can I just quickly say, I've just had a flash. We're about 10 years clean of smoking now, 15. I still can't believe I've done it.
Right.
I still can't believe I've done it. You can do it. You won't think you can, but you can. One day at a time.
Well, you did it. You're 40. You must be 15 years, because Maddie's 17, and I must be about 1 year behind you. So I'm about 14 years clean from smoking.
Can you still believe that we've
No, I
been
can't believe it. But if I'm brutally honest, because of my asthma, because of my breathing, because of my focus on my lungs and everything, I can't help, and I still live in fear that I've done irreparable damage to myself, that I could potentially pay the price for.
You are repairing it.
I hope
All
so.
the time you're repairing. Every day you don't smoke, your lungs
What do you
revive.
make of that line that a lot of, often what I call sort of, vandals in sandals, hippie types say, oh, but it's only a rollie? Because my dearest friend Jim used to smoke rollies and he died of lung cancer.
Well, the reason that they say that is there are something like 42 extra carcinogens in, but people do get a bit hooked up just with cancer being a problem with smoking, and it's really not the only problem. Stroke, heart attack.
Exactly.
So
because the other thing with outer filter is you've also got burning tobacco going straight into your lungs.
Yeah. But
what?
We can do it.
Yes.
We didn't think we could do it.
We didn't think we could, and it was
just
harder.
One day at a time. Just say, today I'm not smoking. Don't go, I can't smoke for the rest of my life. Today I am choosing not to smoke. I'm going to get to the end of today and I'm not going to have had a cigarette. I'll see how I feel tomorrow. And the next day go, Today, I'm not going to have a cigarette.
I toyed with a pipe, thought of a pipe. I thought I might become an old man with a pipe. No.
I've left you.
I always used to be fascinated by the way men go, do you remember? What was all that about? But the smell of a pipe. My granddad had a pipe for a while. The smell of cigars, you see. You always talk about the smell of cigars. I do think it helps as well today. You know, when I was a teenager and in my 20s, everywhere allowed you to smoke. And I do think it's a real help now that you can't smoke in pubs,
much more
you
difficult
can't
to
smoke in
smoke.
restaurants. I used to get on the smoking carriage of a tube.
Me too. And in the back of the bus, the last
Oh
three
my God, that's
rows in the
right.
bus,
That's
you could
absolutely
smoke.
right.
And we'd rush to get upstairs and smoke on the bus.
Yeah. There you go.
But just to finish,
advice
neither of us used any aids, though they do work for some people,
No, nicotine
like
patches and
nicotine
all that.
patches and. So have a look on the NHS website, because I know that you can get most of this stuff on prescription. So, you know, and don't forget, you know, they are saying that even say you're a smoker and you get COVID in a week, but you've given up smoking for that week before, you will already have got some improvement in your lungs. You can do it. We did it. We were the worst ones on the planet, and we did it.
Repeated failures.
You can do it one day at a time. Another quick tip: if you've got a friend or somebody else that would like to give up, use them as a phone a friend where you get. And there's lots of giving up smoking forums. Try those, because at the point where you think you might break and have one, to have somebody else that goes, "Oh no, come on, we're doing it. We're nearly there. Come on," will really, really help. Look up the NHS, look up smoking forums, get some help, do it today. And let us know how you're doing.
Yeah, do.
Leave comments below and let us know how you're doing. We'd just love it if we helped somebody today give up smoking.
Yeah. One day at a time, 1 minute at a time. Distract.